There are moments in history where, just when no one expects it, something happens that blows everything up. And once it has happened, everyone claims how predictable it was. Up until the 2008 crisis, everyone was buying houses like crazy. But when the bubble burst, everyone was saying how obvious it was that there was a bubble. This is known as hindsight, but economists, who are smarter, gave it another name, a black swan event. Visualeconomik community, a black swan has just set off alarm bells on Wall Street and the future of the US economy. The world's largest company, until a few days ago, Nvidia, plummeted almost 20% in a single day, and the rest of the Nasdaq companies followed in its wake. Many are already talking about the bursting of a financial bubble that has been fueled by the US technology sector without any real basis. And in this story, in this black swan event, there is one character that stands out: the People's Republic of China. China has just launched Deepseek, a new artificial intelligence chatbot app that threatens to take down the entire market of American giants such as Microsoft, Meta, and Google. These companies have invested tens of billions of dollars in their AI models, but Deepseek has achieved the same with only $5 million. And take note, fewer than 200 employees on staff. So what does this mean? That the salary of one Google executive alone is higher than what it cost to develop Deepseek. But also, thanks to being open source, this new intelligence can be optimized to be even much faster than the American versions. The outcome? The Chinese have more than just humiliated the best US technology. They have dismantled the oligopoly, but on top of that, they have done it by offering their application for free and to everyone. In just a few days, Deepseek has already become the most downloaded application in the entire App Store, and such has been the surprise that even Microsoft's own CEO has surrendered to it.
To see the Deepseek new model, it's super impressive in terms of both how they have really effectively done an open source model that does this inference time compute and is super compute efficient.
Okay, so a Chinese AI chatbot is better than the American ones. Is it so serious to talk about a bubble bursting? Yes, it is. These are the most valuable companies in the US. The first 9 are technology companies with billion-dollar investments in artificial intelligence, and the 10th is Warren Buffett's insurance company, which in turn has billion-dollar investments in technology companies. The problem comes when China comes up with AI that is just as good or better, but costs less than the salary of the CEO of just one of those companies. That allows the Chinese to offer AI services at minuscule prices that the US can't match. Conclusion: all these investments go down the drain. Wall Street explodes, and the uncomfortable questions begin to arise. If the Chinese have been able to get competitive AI for the cost of a coffee, where has all the money from American technology gone? Are the programmers of Silicon Valley a huge fraud? Do the big American tech companies have a future? Take a look at what Nayib Bukele himself said.
So, 95% of the cost of developing new AI models is purely overhead.
During the AI hype, right now, US stocks are trading at hyperinflated PEs, price-to-earnings ratios. These multiples were justified by the huge profits that AI was expected to generate. In other words, people used to trust that US technology companies could practically monopolize the market and make gold. But now, China has changed everything, and the collapse could be historic. How has Deepseek managed to humiliate US big tech? What is going to happen to the stock market and the Yankee economy? Is this a game changer between China and the US? The company that has fallen the most on Wall Street and is the most afraid is Nvidia. Why? Well, because until now, AIs needed brutal computing power to run their models, and Nvidia was practically the only company capable of producing the necessary chips. However, Deepseek has managed to break this need. Deepseek is so efficient that it barely needs 1/50th of the computational power of conventional AIs. And what does all this mean? On the one hand, fewer chips are needed to get the same result. But on the other hand, it's not only Nvidia chips that are valid to train AIs, but also less powerful and cheaper chips from other companies. Chinese companies will also be able to enter the market. Conclusion: a colossal slump in demand, price, and revenue for Nvidia. But do you want to know the best part? This could be the direct consequence of a policy created by the US itself that is basically shooting itself in the foot. Some time ago, the US banned the export of Nvidia chips to China. For what reason? Well, precisely because they thought that if China didn't have powerful chips, then China would never be able to develop an AI that could compete with the American ones. But as we know, sometimes skill is better than strength. So the Chinese said, hey, if we don't have the brute force, let's use our brains to be more efficient. And boy, did they succeed. The big question is, how? Well, although I'm no expert on the subject, there seem to be 3 fundamental keys to their success. The first key is to use less memory. memory. Instead of using 32-bit quantization-based processes, they did it with 8 bits. That means less precision in each process, but much more hardware efficiency, allowing 4 times more processes per unit of memory. The second key is that instead of reading each word, the AI reads sentences. That is, it uses a multi-token system of integer blocks that is twice as fast and almost as accurate. And the third key is a common one for economists: specialization. Instead of making an AI that covers everything, they've made specialized modules that are activated when needed. That means that modules that are not needed are not activated, and therefore do not waste computational power either. The breakthrough is clear. The question is, will this be enough to puncture Uncle Sam's most powerful sector? Well, it wouldn't be the first time. Back in the 1990s, something very similar to what is happening now happened. However, the protagonist back then was not Nvidia, but Cisco. Cisco was the company that produced everything needed for internet connections: routers, switches, servers, at a time when the internet was the technological leap equivalent to today's AI. As you can see, as with Nvidia, its shares skyrocketed. However, on 27th of March 2000, its share price collapsed, and since then it has never managed to recover its value to the level it had before the fall. So why did Cisco fall? For reasons very similar to what could happen to Nvidia. Everyone thought that Cisco was going to sell so many products that they invested massively in the company, but in the end, the expectation came face to face with reality. After the dot-com crash, the demand for network equipment was not as high as expected. Competitors emerged, excess inventories, and well, what happened, happened. Will Nvidia suffer the same fate? Well, although everything indicates yes, I'm afraid there's something fishy going on in this whole story.
Tall tales?
China has a long history of lying about technological advances. In 2021, China announced progress on its nuclear fusion reactor, presenting it as an artificial sun, capable of reaching extremely high temperatures. And while the project is real and significant milestones were achieved, many experts pointed out that the hype was exaggerated. Also, in 2021, Chinese state media touted a magnetic train capable of reaching 620 kilometers an hour. However, it was discovered that the project is still in the experimental phase and lacked viable infrastructure. For an AI example, tech giant Baidu conducted fake demonstrations of its autonomous driving system by pre-recording parts of the test. So, what is the guarantee that all Deepseek information is true? They say they have practically trained their AI with chips from a toaster and a Russian washing machine. But it's known that its founder, Liang Wenfeng, accumulated as many as 50,000 Nvidia chips before the US banned their export to China, and there are reports that Deepseek was actually trained on 200,000 of Nvidia's most advanced chips. In fact, this is the theory to which Elon Musk gives the most credibility. Although, be careful because there are conspiracy theories here too, such as that all this is a play to make money in the stock market. That is, Deepseek's $7 billion parent hedge fund may have taken a bet against Nvidia stock and leaked false information to force its value to plummet and make themselves money. So does all this mean that Deepseek is a big fraud? Well, no, that's not the case either. Since Deepseek's source code is open, engineers who have reviewed its code have seen significant efficiency improvements. However, the training source code, which is what matters, remains hidden. In short, Deepseek may be more efficient, but it probably won't be nearly as cheap or as powerful as it promises. But even if it were true, would it really be so catastrophic for companies like Nvidia, Microsoft, and Meta? Well, no, not necessarily. I mean, sorry for the prophets of doom, but before jumping to hasty conclusions, you have to ask yourselves a few questions. How is it possible that Silicon Valley engineers didn't realize that they could make much more efficient AIs? Are they idiots? Personally, I doubt it. I'm more inclined to think that if the big techs haven't been more efficient, it's simply because they haven't wanted to. The CEOs of Meta and Google have admitted on several occasions that they spend far more money than necessary on developing their technologies. Do they like throwing money away? No. What happens is that they prefer to overspend, but ensure effectiveness and development, to be at the forefront rather than fall short. And here it's important to note one thing. Deepseek is a language model, but AI goes much further. In fact, having language models is not even the goal of big tech. There are much more important AI programs, such as those that will be used in robots or autonomous cars. This would be like saying that Apple is going down the drain because a Chinese company has come out with cheaper headphones. Well, yes, fine, but the iPhone is more important efficient and remains unbeatable. And that's not to mention the elephant in the room. Is DeepSeek really on a par with ChatGPT? Well, it's not so clear. Most of the comparisons have been made against the O1 version of GPT, and it does not seem that DeepSeek improves much on it. But ChatGPT is about to release the O3 version, which is much better. Again, DeepSeek will be more efficient, but the cutting edge, at least for now, will remain in the United States. But then, if it's true that DeepSeek has introduced groundbreaking improvements, what is stopping American companies from copying them and improving their models even further? The best of both worlds. Well, it's not clear that either Google, Meta, or Microsoft are going to suffer much from this. And what about Nvidia, you ask? On the one hand, it's true that if what DeepSeek says is true, less computational power will be needed to train each AI. But let me ask you, aren't computers becoming more efficient with each passing year? Aren't cell phones more efficient? Does greater efficiency mean less use of a resource? Think of it this way. Combustion cars have been getting more and more efficient, burning less and less gasoline. Has that caused the demand for oil to plummet? Let me give you another example. Household appliances are using less and less electricity. Has that led to less electricity consumption? Quite the opposite. The cheaper a resource becomes, the more accessible it is, and the more we use it. This is what is known in economics as the jevans paradox. So, the cheaper it is to create artificial intelligences, the more artificial intelligences will be developed, and the more powerful the current ones will become. And for that, even more chips will be needed, and ones more powerful than those currently in demand. Do you want my opinion? Frankly, I think the Wall Street crash is reasonable. It's possible that many people have over-invested in the tech hype, and now the market is correcting. However, this does not mean that companies are going to collapse. In fact, if there is one thing that is clear to me, it's that all of this is going to be excellent news. If the cost of making an AI has really become that much cheaper, then the market will become more and more democratized. Small companies with fewer resources will be able to develop their own models, each one adapted to 1,000 different needs. And that, my friends, could be a huge economic leap forward. In any case, in the next video, we will take a closer look at the technology war between China and the US and what the future may hold. But for now, the questions are over to you. Do you think China will dethrone the US in the AI market? Do you believe DeepSeek's data? What will happen to the stock market? You can leave me your answers down in the comments. And as always, don't forget that here on Visualeconomik, we release new videos every week. So subscribe to this channel and hit the little bell so you don't miss any of our updates. If you like this video, like it, and I'll see you in the next one. All the best, see you next time.